Hello everyone, welcome back to the Educated Calls Snap channel. How you doing? Hope you guys having a fantastic day. Today is the first day of the new season, and we're going to talk about Hit Monkey, the new season pass card, kind of my impressions where I think you should get it day one, that kind of thing. Let's get started. So we've kind of talked about Hit Monkey in like the breakdown video and the roundup, but we haven't done the dedicated video for it. So Hit Monkey on reveal gain +2 power for each other card you play this turn. So if you're only playing Hit Monkey on a turn, it's not gonna get any power, but it has a really nice effect that it can become extremely big if you synergize with this card. Definitely looks like a threat. Looks like a finisher for a lot of archetypes. So there's a lot of archetypes in the game that play a ton of small pieces, and really what they were missing was just like something big they can do to like contest a lane very easily. A lot of times you had to really meander around, try to find a secondary win con, whether it's like buffing an Angela or a Bishop, or maybe playing Darkhawk and that being your win condition. This kind of slots into those spammy floody boards, floody decks that really like to play a ton of cards, and you can easily get this to be 10 power, 12 power, maybe even more with a little bit of synergy. So definitely think this can be a really powerful tool, something to look into. So when it comes to the April season first impressions, I would actually say this is a check mark. This is like a card that I wouldn't really feel bad about buying. Now, do I think this is broken, like Zabu level, Silver Surfer-ish levels? I would say this leans more Silver Surfer-ish more than Zabu. It's not going to be like warping the game around itself, especially since there are counterplays already in the game. Like if you're annoyed about this card, it's easier to counterplay, where Zabu had that counterplay, but like it wasn't like super elegant. This one, if you want to Leech or Sandman, Leech is already fairly popular. You can definitely slot it in and mess what this card wants to do. So I definitely think there are some weaknesses here, but I do think this is something I can recommend. A card that will see play, that will be in the meta. I would say moving forward, unless this card gets changed, I definitely think this is a meta staple. So definitely think day one this is something you can buy, and I wouldn't be too sad about it. So feel free about that. All right, now let's talk about some of the synergies, some of the downsides we have. So for synergies, there is a lot. There is a lot for this. So that's a great type of card where you could just like, oh, you could play with this and this and this and this. Yeah, this one has a lot. So we're just gonna run it down, right? Kitty Pryde, I think, is pretty easy to synergize. It's a powerful one cost. Ant-Man has the same function, right? It's a powerful one cost. You really want multiple big plays on the final turn to really like prevent your opponent from saying, oh, I just need to, contest the lane he doesn't play Hit Monkey in, or the lane that is very easy to counteract, right? So by having things like Kitty Pryde, even though Kitty Pryde is the same, when it does get re-enabled, I definitely think that will be in a staple of Hit Monkey decks, because you can generally just generate a lot of power, and Kitty Pryde likes a lot of the cards that Hit Monkey also likes. So things like Angela, Bishop, and Beast bounce synergies, Kitty Pryde loves that as well. So this is definitely a card I definitely think you can see a lot of. Unfortunately, it's disabled, so you won't be able to use it. But it just goes to show you, like, whatever you're going to see day one, this deck could potentially get even stronger in some archetypes. Some archetypes aren't going to use Kitty, but there are a lot of archetypes that will. Ant-Man is not really its own card. It just kind of shows like powerful one drops Hit Monkey's gonna like, because you can just play a ton of one into Hit Monkey. That can be a big power spike, right? Even turn 5, you play 1/1/1 Hit Monkey, or something like 1 Mysterio Hit Monkey. You can get a lot of power even on the final turn. So definitely think this can be a powerful option, just playing good one drops. Now Bast is already a really good card, and it just gets more synergies. It just gets better, man. Anytime someone plays Bast turn 1, I'm already like, ugh. It's one of those games. And I definitely think with Hit Monkey, any Basque is definitely going to be very scary because your Hit Monkey is getting 3 power base already, and then it just synergizes with a lot of other things. So definitely think Basque is a very scary, very, very strong card. I could see Basque being looked at in the future, like just from like a design philosophy of how like I analyze cards. I definitely think if the meta settles, like this could be a card people will start complaining about. But for now, that's not going to happen. People just look at the obviously problematic cards before looking at secondary problematic cards. Well, I don't fully do that, but yeah, Bass is a really good card, and I definitely think it's going to work very well with Hitmonkey. So wouldn't be surprised to see that index. Angela, I'm going to put Angela and Bishop in the same category because they're just staples for flood decks, staples for bounce decks, staples for a lot of decks. They're just cards that react very well if you're playing lots and lots of cards. And that's really what you want to be doing with Hitmonkey. So definitely think Angela, Bishop are really something you're going to see a lot of if Hitmonkey really takes off. And now another pair of cards we want to talk about is Beast and Falcon. So those cards are the kingpins of the bounce deck. Bounce being a deck where you're playing lots of small minions and you're bouncing them back into your hand, and then you're playing it again. Usually you're synergized with Angela, Bishop, Bass, that all those kind of bounce effects, and good on reveals, right? Like on reveals that you can play over and over again, such as Iceman Core can really do a lot of damage. So definitely think those really work very, very well with Hitmonkey, especially being able to put the Hitmonkey back into your hand for 1 energy, and then it keeps the buff it's already got, and then you can play it back down. So this can be very easily 16, 18, 20 power Hitmonkeys, which is very, very, very strong. So definitely think this is a definitely good finisher for the bounce archetype. You're going to see it a lot in bounce decks. Now, Goose, since you are playing tons of small units, you're not really having to deal with 4, 5, 6 cost cards. So Goose can be a nice tech option for these type of decks, so you can just say, okay, I'm not going to be playing a lot of big stuff, so let's deny my opponent from playing big stuff. So that can be a really good tool in the metagame if you're fighting those type of opponents. So, yeah. Then Maria Hill just generates you a 1-drop that you can play. It's not really necessarily the strongest card, but it is kind of fitting that archetype of I want to flood the board. You can definitely get copies of the 1-drops you already have with Maria, and it could just be something you can do if you want to be playing that type of style. And then Mysterio. Now this is a very, very, very strong card with Hitmonkey. Now the reason why is every time you play a Mysterio, it's going to count as being played on every lane it can. So it'll play on every single lane, and that counts as a play trigger. So for your Hitmonkey gets stronger every time you play a card. Well, because those Mysterio clones count as being played, if you just only play Mysterio plus the Hitmonkey, that's already 3 triggers in an optimal scenario. And that's scary. That's honestly, that is a very scary prospect that you can easily get that many triggers with just 2 cards, right? With just 1 card. So with Synergies, right, if you want to really dive into that with Sarah, other Synergies, you could really just get so many procs with the Mysterio trigger on the Hitmonkey. So definitely a scary card to play. You should be wanting to play Mysterio if you can with Hitmonkey synergy decks. But yeah, definitely something you want to be looking out for. Now, Absorbing Man, a lot of the decks that Hitmonkey can play with tends to play a lot of on reveals. And Absorbing Man can obviously copy those on reveals. And you can also just use Absorbing Man as a proc for maybe Beast, as a proc for maybe the Hitmonkey itself. Bask, Bask is a little bit weird, but Moon Girl if you want. There's a lot of little on reveals that you could definitely find a way of utilizing with the Absorbing Man. So this one definitely requires a bit of thought, a little deck planning, but I can definitely see this being a missing piece of a deck that you're like, ooh, I don't know what to put here. I just need something that can proc my trigger or a little bit more consistency in what I'm trying to do. I could definitely see Absorbing Man being that piece you need. And then Moon Girl can copy a lot of your cheap cards. It can also copy She-Hulk. So that's something I wanted to talk about, right? If you go She-Hulk, turn 6, maybe turn 7, right? 2 copies, 1 power She-Hulk, or turn 7, right? That could be 0 power She-Hulks. You can go She-Hulk, She-Hulk, something, Moon Girl. I mean, Hid Monkey, right? Like that's a bit scary, right? So I definitely think the She-Hulk could be another useful tool, but Moon Girl in general, just being able to copy your very cheap cards, you're going to be flooding the board a lot. If you're not going for the bound strategy, you're just going for a flood strategy, Moon Girl could be the missing piece. Now, I have a whole nother page full of other synergies. This is just the starter. So next up, Wasp, right? Wasp and Yellow Jacket, but Wasp is like the easier one. Since you're going to be flooding a lot, the Yellow Jacket might be a little bit detrimental sometimes, but even it's hard for it to be detrimental, but it definitely could. But I think Wasp, Yellow Jacket kind of fits the same niche. 0 power cards. They're free for Hid Monkey, right? It's just free power to add into that deck design. So it can be very easy, especially like you're Moon Girling the Wasp. Ooh, now you got double 0 power Wasp, double Hid Monkey. Like, come on, that's broken. Come on, like it's so unfair. Anyways, so yeah, there's definitely some synergies there that you can definitely abuse if you want to. That is just lying out for you. Now, Swarm is another synergy. This one is not, I'm not super sold on this because you have to play it like Colin Wing or something, and that means the Hid Monkey needs to be not in your hand, or you're having to risk a 50-50 flip, which you don't want to do when Hid Monkey is just like, can just be stable without this. But it is something that maybe some people want to add in discard decks for like this extra surprise if they don't want to go for like the Captain Chavez win condition. They can maybe go Swarm, something Hid Monkey in there. So definitely could see that. I don't really think that's a super good one, but I want to put it in there. Now we have to talk about Mr. Negative, right? This is another archetype that could definitely be Hid Monkey favorite. So Mr. Negative tends to have 0 power cards. Hid Monkey is a 0 power card. And the nice thing about the 0 power cards, when you get Mr. Negative, turn it all into 0 power cost cards. Now, 0 cost cards, Hid Monkey kind of loves. So Mr. Negative just kind of sets up for these huge power plays where you go 0 cost, Hid Monkey, right? And that can be very annoying because it still gives you extra mana to do other things. So you could go like 0 Hid Monkey for 0. And then play like a 6 cost Zolan, or you could play a 0 cost Zolan, right? Like legitimately. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of nonsense there that you can really abuse here. So definitely think Mr. Negative is a very viable archetype people will be playing with this deck just to see how it feels. Now, when it comes to 0 card archetypes, there's some other things that really help. Jane Foster, right, being able to pull your 0 cards in the deck is really nice. And then Thor gives you a 0 cost card. So even though you might not be going for this huge tons of plays turn 6, having the ability to draw a 0 cost card that gives you power into the Hid Monkey is just a nice addition to have. So if you're running Jane Foster, you could also run Thor, you could also run Wasp. They all flow pretty freely into each other. So it's something you can be putting into those archetypes. Now, Wong. Hid Monkey's on reveal. Wong doubles on reveals. Do you get my drift? That could be very stupid. Especially if you're going like bounce or extra moon, like if you go Moon Girl and you have 2 Hid Monkeys, right? And then you bounce them. I mean, I could. Anyways, Wong could be a nice extra finisher for your Hid Monkey going into like 30-digit powers or something very silly. I could definitely see Wong being an addition that you want to be playing. It's maybe in like Sarah or something like that. We haven't went to Sarah yet, but let's go to Sarah. So Sarah, right, is also something that is an archetype that people want to play. I'm going to be talking about some of the common archetypes at the end, but Sarah is another one. Everything gets cheaper, fits easily into what Hidden Monkey wants to do, flood the board in the last turn or close to the last turn. So bam, you drop these, you drop the Sarah, makes a lot of sense. Now, another archetype that you might be seeing is Zoo, right? Zoo is a very popular early game archetype that people play where you just play a ton of 1-drops and then you have Khazar on 4, Blue Marvel on 5, and then a ton of 1-drops at the end. Well, you can play a ton of 1-drops and Hidden Monkey, and that can be a nice like ending curve for your Zoo archetype. So that can definitely be something you want to be doing in Zoo. So I could definitely see that slotting very in, especially for newer players that are just starting. Zoo is very easy to make, and then you can just slot in a Hidden Monkey from the season pass. Bam, you've got a deck archetype. And then Magic kind of makes sense. If you have the turns being later, you get to play more cards. If you play more cards, Hidden Monkey will get more value. Makes a lot of sense there. And then Valkyrie's just like not really Hidden Monkey specific, but more like the archetypes that will play playing Hidden Monkey will probably have a ton of like cheap, not that powerful, low cost units. Valkyrie can equalize that. If they don't have a full board, you likely win unless they have some type of ongoing synergy that is really strong, basically Dino or something. So you can definitely get some value in those Hidden Monkey decks with a Valkyrie, if that makes sense. And then last but not least, right, in terms of the synergies, we have Thanos. Thanos plays a lot of stones. The stones cost 1. You can definitely flood with the stones. The weird thing with Thanos is that you can't really do the classic Lockjaw Thanos, I would say, because it doesn't really interact super well. You want to be playing those stones early, where with Hidden Monkey, you probably want to be playing those stones still early, but you need more things to play, right? So it would be a different version of the Thanos deck, but I definitely think Thanos could find a Hidden Monkey variant that works very well for him. So definitely we'll have to try. Thanos is a hard deck to build sometimes, so I can definitely see Thanos taking a little bit longer, but being a viable option for the Hidden Monkey archetype. Now, we've talked praises about Hidden Monkey, and I do recommend it. But obviously, there's some downsides. There are some weaknesses to Hidden Monkey that we have to address, that we have to talk about going forward. Now, here I have She-Hulk, just in case I forgot to talk about it with Moongirl, but I remembered, so we'll remove that. But let's talk about some of the weaknesses. First thing off is Sandman and Leech. Those cards are going to ruin Hidden Monkey's day. And it's kind of why I don't really recommend building like playing Hidden Monkey maybe day 1. Well, maybe try it, but be willing to adjust. Because most people, or at least people I'm going to fight, they're gonna hate on Hidden Monkey day 1, just to make, cause it's very likely people see new cards, people play new cards. So if you want to take advantage of people playing new cards, you play the counter to the new cards when the new cards come out. So I think I'm gonna be seeing a lot of Leech and Sandman. So because of that, right, I gotta be careful with how I'm constructing my Hidden Monkey decks or how I'm piloting them. So yeah, that's gonna be really bad. Leech into Hidden Monkey doesn't do anything, right? And then Sandman into Hidden Monkey, it means you can't flood on the final turn. So that's a pretty bad problem. Same thing with Wave. Wave has the same issue. You can't flood on the final turns. So that's going to neutralize Hidden Monkey really badly. So that those can really mess you up. So anything that can play Wave easily, anything that can play Leech and Sandman easily, those can be really problematic pieces. Now, Killmonger doesn't really hit Hidden Monkey, but it hits a lot of the cards Hidden Monkey wants to play. Unless you're playing like a negative deck, you're going to be running a lot of 1s. So this Killmonger can really mess you up in terms of how many points you think you have on each lane. So you definitely be careful about the Killmonger. Could really do some damage there. And then Cosmo, right? A well-played Cosmo with priority can absolutely cripple you, right? You're not going to get any of the value from your Hidden Monkey. You might be relying on that to win you the lane. and the Cosmo could really just shut that down completely. So you do have to be careful. And then Shang-Chi is just the alternative Cosmo, where if you make a big hidden monkey, well, they just blow it up to 0. You get no power. You do not pass go. You do not collect 200. Feels pretty bad. So definitely have to be careful about those pieces. But it's not something I think will last too long unless hidden monkey is like oppressively strong, which I don't think will happen. But even if it does, there will be these countermeasures. So I definitely think after it settles, you'll be able to play hidden monkey, and you'll just be able to just deal with the counters when they arise, but it won't be like nonstop like in the probably early stages of the season. Now, to kind of finalize, I want to just talk about some of the archetypes that can be made with hidden monkey that you want to be thinking about when it comes to hidden monkey, right? So first things off, right? Be aware early in the season, people are going to have counters like Sandman, Leech, Killmonger, the cards we just went over. So just be aware of that. But after that settles, there are definitely a lot of archetypes you can play with this deck, and there might be some that aren't even discovered. So first of all, we have Beast, which represents the bounce archetype, where you're playing cards up, out, and then playing them down again. I was considering making example decks, and I was just like, dude, I did this every time. I was like, dude, close. But I was looking at some of the decks I was making. I was like, this doesn't feel that reliable, essentially. I definitely love making decks after I know they're good, where if I'm just like randomly making stuff, I just like, this doesn't even feel that great. So, and especially with people going to be running Sandman and stuff, there was like no counters to that in my deck list. I was just like, I don't love this. So I decided not to do it. I'll just talk about the archetypes itself. And if you want to experiment, then go for it. But Balance is definitely a archetype you can run. Mr. Negative is definitely another archetype you can run, since I really should have put Hidden Monkey here, by the way. Since it is going to be a pretty since it's going to be a pretty cheap card to add into Mr. Negative, and it just fits with the 0 power base. You just flip that, it costs 2, costs 0, very strong. And then Kazar representing Zoo strategies, so strategies that play a ton of 1s. Hidden Monkey can really just fit into that very easily. Instead of playing 5 1-drops, you'll play 4 1-drops and a 2-drop. Like, amazing, right? It just seems to work, just seems to fit very easily. You do have to run a very heavy 1-drop centric deck, but that's pretty easy to do with 1-drops that give you more 1-drops. There's a lot of those. So, or cards that just give you cheap cards, there's a lot of those. So very easy to make work. Then we have the Sarah. You place her on 5 and then you flood on 6. Very easy to add Hidden Monkey in there. Makes a ton of sense. Bam, 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 Hidden Monkey. And the last one, we have Thanos. This one I think is going to be longer to really have a viable archetype, like have all the cards in the archetype really structured. But I do think once we figure out how to add Hidden Monkey in a Thanos deck that works, is going to feel pretty good. So definitely like those options. Think they can definitely work. Hope you guys enjoy this season. I'm definitely hoping that the matchmaking is better for this season, where I'm not fighting bots. But we'll have to see in the morning when I stream tomorrow, whether it's more of the same or if it's a brand new world. So that's what we got for Hidden Monkey. Hope you guys like the season pass. Let me know what decks you're thinking about building, and I'll see you in the next one.
Educated calling snap. Once you watch him, you won't go back. He'll teach you to marvel snap. Your skill